The following is a Down with a Dig production. This is Ohio Laborers Union and you, helping laborers understand the benefits of being part of a great union.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Ohio Laborers Union and You. I'm your host, Bethany Billy. Today with me we have Ralph Cole. He is the Business Manager, Secretary, Treasurer of the Laborers District Council of Ohio, International Vice President for Laborers International Union of North America, and over a 50-plus year member with Laborers Local 83 in Portsmouth, Ohio. Welcome, Ralph.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you for this setup. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk about, as you well know, something I love to be talking about, and that's the membership.
So here we are in your office in the District Council. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what goes on in the District Council? It's not the typical day-to-day type of thing, but what are some of the things that you do as Business Manager, Secretary, Treasurer?
Well, some of the things we do numerous things, and it's hard to really number those or whatever, but you know, we help in instances as far as the local unions go, as far as grievance procedure. We negotiate a statewide heavy highway agreement for all the locals. As stated in the Constitution, we are to approve all the building locals, and that's where each local union negotiates its own building agreement, and then we approve that here at the council. And we do numerous things with the legislators and all the politicians, as I call them, which I absolutely hate dealing with. But probably too numerous, really, for me to even begin to say all the things that take place here in this office.
Now, you just mentioned politicians in dealing with legislators. I know some of the things that we're working on right now that's really important is both distracted driving and also the force account threshold. Can you tell me a little bit about both of those and what we're doing to sort of push those in our agenda items?
Distracted driving is, as you well know, that we have had 5 people, if I'm correct, in the last year that's been killed out there in the work zones. We have to fix that. We have no choice but to fix that. A person gets up in the morning and his wife fixes dinner bucket and he kisses the family bye, and to never return, it just can't be. And we have to fix that. So distracted driving is the beginning, only a beginning, because much more needs to be done. We certainly support Governor DeWine and his efforts, but we also, I don't think anything short of, say, a mile from our work zone, that we have a sign that says, if you speed, you're going to get a ticket. And then have cameras, and I know all the story about the cameras, but to have cameras that say that when you speed, you get a ticket. You know, so the camera catches you, and the next day you got a ticket in your mailbox, or the next couple days. So it's a life decision that we have to make for our membership, and we'll settle for nothing less than that.
I don't think a day goes by in this office that you and I don't sit and talk about the membership and what is going on out there and what we can do. I mean, we've come up with so many different things over the years. We're lucky now that, you know, Cindy Abrams has introduced this standalone bill just this week, I think. And, you know, we've been working on trying to get that distracted driving bill passed. But it's just a constant reminder every day.
Yeah. And then you mentioned force accounts. And it's like, here's the deal. We spend millions of dollars a year. Yes, I said millions of dollars a year to train and educate people in all the diverse tasks that we have on all these job sites. If, in fact, that we're going to allow county commissioners and trustees and all these people to use our work as political ammunition or whatever to stay elected or whatever they do, we can't allow it. So, and what force accounts are, they allow elected whoever, if they're state, county, townships, or whoever, to do projects on their own up to a certain amount of money. Well, the problem with that is that we could have our people that are trained looking out the window while they're either on unemployment or maybe even drew it out. that's got all the qualifications to be able to do that work that's being done right in front of their houses in many occasions, and by people who have no training. Township trustees, county commissioners, and those people do not have the funds. I just told you it's millions of dollars for training a year. They do not have the funds to be able to do that. So they can talk all they want to about because of prevailing rate and all those things, that those jobs are done cheaper. They aren't done cheaper, and they're not done nearly as efficient and on time and under budget.
So they're trying to raise the threshold to say, well, it'll have to be $500,000
Yeah.
as opposed to $250,000.
That's right. That's
And if
what
it
they
goes
wanna
above
do.
$500,000, then we'll go to union labor. And if
Yes.
it's under that, then we can
They'll bid
self-perform
it
the
out.
work.
What they're trying to say is, and I don't know exactly the thresholds, but I'm going to guess them about 150. They want to more than triple that. The townships is a lot less, and they want to go to like $500,000 or whatever. At the end of the day, and what the force accounts do, they don't have to bid that out. So just say you had a bridge out there and the county engineer says, I want to build that, and it's less than $350,000. And so he builds that. Well, people say, if you said to them, you're not capable. Oh, yeah, we have certified engineers. The engineers don't do the building. The engineer does the designs, and then you have, with us, trained people who know how to build bridges to go out there and build the bridge. For with them, it's trial and error. And I'm not talking bad about anybody. I'm just saying, I'm talking about our people and the capabilities. And if we can't do that, then we need to just save our millions of dollars and not train people to do work that government is not that won't allow us to do. That don't make any sense.
No, especially if, everyday people are going to be traveling on these bridges. And if they're
Yeah.
not done safely or correctly, I don't know,
What
then you have
sense
disaster.
What sense does any of that make?
Right.
So take the union and the non-union element out of it.
Just train people.
Legislation doesn't say union or non-union. It says training and efficiency, and that's us.
The other thing that you mentioned is you talked about negotiating contracts.
Yeah.
And we also refer to those often as collective bargaining agreements.
Yes.
And I know from working in this office, we do the statewide heavy highway. Do you want to talk a little bit about that process and who's involved in it and what you do to, how often it's negotiated, things like that?
Sure. We negotiate that every 3 years. Our negotiating committee is the executive board, and I'm the spokesman for the E-board in negotiations. And the collective bargaining agreement just really sets the terms and conditions of employment. We have the best health and welfare and the best pension. Has never left the green zone, almost 100%. And I think by 24 it will be over 100% funded. We got like $204 million in reserves in our health care. It's all self-administrated, and so all those things come from collective bargaining.
In addition to how much of their increase in their wage they get, correct?
Right, and parts of their wages go into those whatever, whether it's health and welfare, pension, or LESID, or training. But we negotiate a rate. This say $1.25 a year. And I think our last one was $1.20, $1.10, $1.25. And then so we would take out of that whatever we needed to maintain current level benefits in any of the plans.
So that's a good sign for me, because when I retire in 20 years,
Yeah.
I'll have a good pension, as opposed to, that just keeps that fully funded.
We have a defined benefit plan, which means that it's a defined benefit and defined contribution. So we know how much money we're going to put in that plan, and then the members will know how much what their pension is going to be when they can retire. That thing has been under fire by politicians and all the other people, and when in fact the retirement plan, the PERSs and all the TERSs, all of those are defined benefit plans. Those are plans that have a defined contribution and a defined benefit. They can look at theirs and tell exactly what they're going to get when they're retiring. The only difference is that all the money that goes into ours is paid in by the employees, I said, where with the TERS and the PERS and the others, it's matching. So if you put $25 a payday in and was working for the township, then the township put 25, and together you put $50 in there. So, but none of that with us. We are everything we do. We don't take outside money. We don't take any government grants or government to do anything. And everything that we have, LESIT, health care, pension, training, apprenticeship, everything is self-administered and paid for by this organization.
Well, and it's such a good pension plan. Weren't they a couple years ago wanting to take from our pension to bail out some of the other trades pensions?
They were. The PBGC is the pension guaranteed is for all intents and purposes broke. So what they wanted to do was increase our belly button tax, if you will, for plans that were deficient. And they still do that, but at a much smaller amount than they were anticipated in the beginning. It didn't make sense. It would have weakened all the plans. So you take a strong plan and you start divvying out money. That is money that should be used for benefits for the retirees. And so what they were going to do is dish it out because their plan wasn't managed right, or this didn't happen or that didn't happen. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want any part of it. We're all in this together, but we're in this as Ohio laborers for Ohio laborers. And if we can help other people, that's fine, but to take benefits that would be enjoyed by our membership who works out there every day when it's too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry, and sometimes don't work at all, and who struggle. And then to take what they have earned themselves and put money in and to divvy it out because other people didn't manage well doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that struggle because, like I said, you've been a laborer for over 50 years, and you obviously did not start at this job at the district council.
No.
So how'd you start out? How'd you get into laboring? I know you used to play ball, so.
Yeah, playing ball didn't get me much. But no, when I got out of high school, there was some people older guys that were working for a little company called W.E. Ringwald. First of all, I came from a family of 8 boys and a girl. My father passed when I was 9 years old. There wasn't much of an opportunity, you know. I could play a little sports, but because of the family condition, there was no way that I could have went to college. So that was out. So these guys, I was working when I first got out of high school at a little place that made shoe heels for women's shoes, wooden shoe heels. And so I had some friends who were working construction in East Liverpool, Ohio. And when they called, they said, "Do you want to go to work in East Liverpool?" Man, I thought I was going to cross the pond. I had no idea that was in Ohio. And to tell you the truth, it almost wasn't. From where I live down in Sauter County to East Liverpool, Ohio was a heck of a long way. But I went. And so I didn't join. No union people came out then, and so I worked that summer, and I didn't know anything. I had no idea about unions, none. So the following year then, I was working for a little company called W.E. Ringwald, and they got a job here in Columbus, and that was my first acquaintance or meeting of any union. So I actually joined here in July of 1967 here in Columbus. And then, obviously, I wanted my book at home, so as soon as I could transfer it into Portsmouth, it went into Portsmouth. So then, things just evolved. I mean, I didn't know anything about unions. Unions didn't know anything about me, and that's why that this organization is so great. When you can take a person who, with no qualifications, honestly, I'm not sure I still have, and be able to move through. I've held almost every office that you could hold in this organization: secretary, treasurer, business manager, recording secretary, international vice president. I mean, the e-board here, the e-board, everywhere. And without any formal education, that would help me do any of those jobs. I was just recognized by people, and I can say, and I, as you know, I don't like to talk about me much, but I never asked for any of those positions. This organization is so looking forward to try to keep this membership intact and middle class, that they didn't care if I was a threat to them or anything else. It was when a position came open and they thought I could do it, they asked me. And to be honest with you, I never said no. And so here I am today. You take an organization that pays everything themselves today, no entitlement, nobody wants anything. They just want to do a day's work for a day's pay, to be able to be on time in the morning and make it home at night, and then have a quality of life for them and their family in between. That's not asking too much. And so that's where we are as far as this organization, and as far as I believe that what we do and what you do is a calling, not a job. You gotta, the biggest asset you gotta have is a passion for the people that we represent.
I was just going to say that because we've had conversations. You know, when I first started here 12 years ago, I didn't know so much about the union, and you know, you were always like, you don't get it yet, you don't get it yet, and we would have all these conversations, and then I remember finally one day you're like, oh, you're getting it, because you had always drilled into me, you know, it's not about us, it's about the people. People are out there who are working. And I told you, it was the one day that it was so hot out, and I had seen that paving truck go down Schrock Road. And I was like, those are our guys that are out there shoveling that it's 100 degrees. I'm in the air conditioning. They're out there, and it's on their backs that we're being able to do this work. And you really drilled that into my head. And I think that's what makes such a big difference in leadership in this organization, is a lot of our folks have come, you know, from, you know, you told me you were digging trenches and doing things like that. So you have the understanding of where these people are today and what they're doing. So that's why you have such a passion for the people. And I think that's one of the biggest and best qualities that you have, because you always have that in your mind. Well, I was there. I was that guy. I had 2 little girls and a wife that I had to support. So, you know, I wanted the best, you know, agreement negotiated, the best CBA negotiated. So you really understand where the people are coming from, which I think, you know, a lot of people in leadership don't necessarily have that.
No, that's exactly right. And I know during the Obama administration, and, you know, they were talking about the pipelines and being part-time jobs and all this stuff. This organization and the business managers out there take 30 or 40 years of part-time work, turn that in a career with the best health care and pension money can buy. And people know how to prepare, because they know what they're going to make. They know, you know, unemployment. Unemployment is such a bridge in our careers that allow us to have this career. Because if it wasn't, our people traditionally work from somewhere around April the 15th till October the 15th, somewhere in there, sometimes earlier and sometimes later. But there's a bridge, as you can well see, that they need to have income and need to live for that 26 weeks, and unemployment provides that. So it's a big part of this career that our people start out with not knowing if they're going to be working tomorrow. Our people get laid off sometimes 5 times a week. They go out on day jobs so they can get their unemployment, so they can get their hours up for their health care and their pension. They'll take anything. And so I, as a business manager in Portsmouth, I would call Manny a night and just have one day. Very, you know, hated to, but we had to cover the work, and I knew I had people who needed that work. It's a fulfilling job, but it's a job that you got to care and you got to have a passion for that's much greater than most people think are reasonable. And if you're not willing to give that in your position or mine or anyone else that's representing these people, you shouldn't be here. It's not a job. It's calling.
So you mentioned you joined in 1966. What are some
67.
67. Yeah. What are some of the changes? I mean, it's 2021. There's got to be a lot of changes from 1967 to 2021.
Oh, my God. You know, I'll never forget, I was making $3.10 an hour. $3.10 an hour. And it seems such a little now, right? I was sitting at McDonald's here probably a couple years ago. You got some old guys that meet there on Saturday morning, so I thought I'd go over and meet with them. And Mr. McCall was there. Mr. McCall was my chemistry teacher, in high school. So he was asking me some of these same things, how I got in, and I told him, I said, Mr. McCall, I was making $3.10. And he said, let's see, 1967. He said, in 1964, I was teaching at Portsmouth West for $4,000. And he said, Portsmouth offered me $1,000 more. So I taught chemistry at Portsmouth in 1965 for $5,000 a year. So the money it still fit, what was going on there, but it seemed so small that our contributions were, and I think those contributions started in 1968. There were nickels and dimes that people never dreamed of this thing getting, or at least it didn't appear to me. Maybe they did. Maybe they were much smarter, but that they were going to someday be putting, like in our health care, $7, and in our pension $3.80 or close numbers today, and the benefits that are in it today. I mean, so that was one of the biggest changes. As far as the operation on the job sites, I don't know that there was, Beth, a big difference today. Of course, there's automation has taken place, like you get the hammer on the back of the backhoe instead of 25 or 30 laborers busting out a bridge to be resurfaced and those kind of things. And, the skid steer was one of the most, probably came along here, and I'm going to guess somewhere in the mid-'80s lightly, but has almost taken over to the point that used to see backhoes and bulldozers, cranes occasionally, but mostly backhoes and bulldozers out there. And today you're seeing less and less. Now you still see the bulldozers with what is GPS on them, and where we used to have the lock level and shooting a grade and all that, and they cut the grade now with the GPSs. But you don't see a lot of backhoes, and you're going to see less because all the things that those little old bobcats, the maneuverability and all the things that they can do, so they're taking the place of almost everything out there, them and the mini excavator.
Well, and those are some of the things that we get in the biggest fights over, that skid steer, because the operators often try to take jurisdiction over that, and that's something that you handle here at the District Council on a regular basis.
Yes, jurisdiction is another thing that we deal with here. Just this morning in a conversation with the contractor over grievances and disagreements and jurisdiction. So we have not a lot of that, but we do. It's mainly, we used to have it with the carpenters, but we have it mainly now with the operator over the mini excavator in some places we run, and certainly the skid steer, as far as working center, and whoever, and it's in both our agreements, whoever gets it does it, and that's that.
And you also talked about, things are changing, and whether it's like the GPS is being added to do stuff. Well, now one of the big things that's coming out in 2021 are these solar panels. Yeah. And, when President Biden first came along, he stopped the pipeline jobs, which is a lot of our high-paying, good-paying jobs. Yep. And now, so we've sort of had to pivot. And I know, gosh, in the last couple weeks, you've been really working on this solar panel issue going on in Ohio.
Yes, that we weren't very happy with our support with the president. We had, as you well know, probably averaged for the last, 7-8 years, 2.5, 3 million man hours a year on mainline. And we also averaged $2.5 to $3 million hours a year on distribution. And the distribution's still here. We're still battling with the flaggers, but at the end of the day, the pipeline is dried up, and then he's kind of dried it up like the Keystone and some of the other across the country. So he talked about during that hey, okay, we're going to create new clean energy jobs, and they're going to be great jobs. Well, the truth is, they start out, they're paying $14.50 an hour out there without benefits. So in New York and Washington, the state of Washington, they have legislation now that says that anything over 10 megawatts is prevailing rate. 10 megawatts, one panel creates about 9 megawatts. So in other words, if you're not using it for your house, it's going to have prevailing rate in that. I hope by the end of this day that you have a copy of those two legislative bills that they've created in those two states to make those prevailing rate or Davis-Bacon rates. And then I've already submitted thought of it to our House and Senate here. And I think if we can get that legislation in there and that it'll say if it's over 10 megawatts, it'll say if they got, I hope it says that if they're getting tax abatements and if the electricity's been sold to communities, then any of those items make that thing prevailing rate. Now, I haven't seen the legislation. I don't know if it's on your desk yet, but it should be by the end of the day. And then we're going to propose that our people who has really worked well, the Republicans have really worked well with us in the state of Ohio, and hopefully they continue to do that. I know that they were for pipelines as much as we were, so I think they would support, some kind of replacement for middle-income wages.
I would have to say that's one of the biggest things. I would say the biggest change for me is when, I came here, everybody always assumes, I think, unions are supported by Democrats,
Yes.
And that unions support Democrats. And I would have to say that was one of the biggest changes that I saw here. We don't support Democrats or Republicans. We support those folks who support our issues. And it just so happened that, the last couple of years, we've been heavily supported of the Republicans who have really come to bat for us and who have really, on a regular basis, supported our issues. So I think that's something really important to recognize, that it's not blue or red. It's not, Democrat or Republican. It's the issues. It's who is going to fight for our members. And that's another thing that just, you have really drilled into my head. It's not about this or that. It's about the members and getting them a good living wage, getting them, great benefits, training, and then getting them home to their friends and family at the end of the day. I think, when it boils down to it, that's sort of like our biggest things that we work on a regular basis in this office.
Well, and you asked about changes, and you're exactly right. That's probably one of the biggest changes that we have made since I've been here, is that for the last 10 or 12 years, we've been under a Republican House, Senate, and governor. And yet we've been able to, issues that's been important to us, we've been able to get those supported. So we don't give up old friends for new ones. So it wouldn't make any sense to me, if you're with our issues, that we would take somebody because they were a Democrat and run them against you. So we make it clear to the people that we keep our good friends and we try to get rid of our enemies. Make no bones whether they're Democrat or Republican, but we don't play that card. We don't play any card. We don't discriminate in any way. We're diversified in everything that we do, and we are certainly diversified when it comes to politics.
Absolutely. And that was one of the biggest
shocks
to me. It just was, because like I said, you always think union, Democrat, Democrat, union sort of go hand in hand. So I just think that was one of the biggest things that we did to make such a difference. And it made such a positive impact in so many ways that they worked with us on so many things, whether it was, flagging, or it was the unemployment bill when they tried to cut it from 12 or 26 weeks to 12 weeks. We always had the backing support of folks because we supported them. So. Yeah.
And they understand that Davis-Bacon just makes a plan. It was, after all, that act was in 1931, and Davis and Bacon both were Republicans. So what it does, it just levels the playing field to where it puts, when the person that gets the job, the contractor gets the job, he manages people the best because material is one price, labor is another price. So then you got the markup for your profit, your management, and performance of your people. who, if you were building a house, who wouldn't it want it be based on, not on how cheap you could get stuff done, but when you got the best performance as you went with the least of profit? It makes sense if you were building your own home. So it's not about, again, Democrat or Republican, not about saving money. It's not about anything. It's a quality work where, you had a school over in the Shawnee district that didn't use prevailing rate and, didn't use our people, and the lintels were crooked and all the things went on that we went back in there and straightened up. So at the end of the day, it's just about getting real sound management and middle-class people and well-trained people to support well-trained and operation of union contractors. That's what it all amounts to.
I think that's one of also our biggest selling points is that our people are well-trained. We have our own training center, and we pay for it. They pay for it. It's not like the contractor has to pay for training, you know what I mean? Like, we do that ourselves.
Yeah, you go up there. We just done a $12 million renovation. You wouldn't believe that school was dedicated in 1978. I was actually there when I went to the ceremony. And if you looked at that and thought, how many laborers, we just went from being able to house 70 to 108. And the condition that was in, it was remarkable how well that was kept with a bunch of laborers eating and sleeping there and for all that time.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that, 40 years before we ever had to remodel that. And it's amazing. But if you go up there, there's not a college campus or anything. It sits on a beautiful site up there, about 120 acres. And we train millions of dollars. People, they stay there. It's a campus. They eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner there, and they get the best education and with the best instructors and the best equipment that's there today to do. I mean, it's incredible, and I would welcome anyone to go and take a look at that. They would not believe it.
I agree. I've been up there. It's very nice.
Beautiful.
We go up for Thanksgivings.
Yeah, that's right. One of the things I'm most proudest of is how, the 22 local unions in the state of Ohio are all working together. They send people from one local to another. If people need a specified asbestos or grade checker or whatever they may need, we're able to get that, throughout from one local to another, transferring people without changing local unions. And the one thing I might add, you talked about difference now in 1967. One of the biggest difference just happened with them boys down there in Local 83. They have, in their agreement, industrial hygienists and rad techs. Now I ask you, who ever dreamed that a laborer would have that in their collective bargaining agreement? And it's something that's going to spread, in my prediction, throughout this country. And the contractors are tickled to death. They train their own people. They went to the contractor down there and asked them what they needed, and they got 10 computers and all this thing. They got this room set up to teach whatever needs to be taught there at that at the A plant there in Pike County. And but to me, it's sometimes I just say, who in the world, industrial hygienist? You couldn't even. I wouldn't begin to even had any idea what that was about, and then rad techs. What that stuff is about, and yet we are doing that and teaching that, and actually on the job site doing those tasks.
Did you guys build those nuclear power plants?
Yeah.
Like, did it go from building it because now you're decommissioning it, and now
Yeah, they built that in 1953.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, we did build it, and now we're
decommissioning it.
We're unbuilding it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember, gosh, you had meetings with the Department of Energy trying to get that training down in that area. So that's some of the other things that you do here at District Council. It's not, there's no set, everyone's like, what do you do there? And I was like, oh, it's so hard to say because it's something new every single day. Yeah. Whether it's trying to get, proper flagging going on here in Ohio, with distribution contractors, or it's getting rad techs in down where it's needed in Scioto County.
Yeah.
It's just something new every single day that we're I mean, you were just having a conversation about pre-job conferences and
Yeah.
how, that's in our agreement and you should be doing what you're supposed to be doing, and we're watching.
You remember, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago when Bill Mangano, the attorney, asked us to put down the things, and he had put down, and there was like 2 or 3 pages, and he said, "You don't know what you do. You don't realize all the things that come out of this office, and you don't because it's handled on a one-on-one basis. So you don't have. I can't come over here and say, "Well, we did that. Great, wasn't that something?" Because you know what? When that leaves, here's another one, and one standing in line to come too. So you just do them, and you just do them, and you just do them. And you don't. At the end of the day, you don't say, "Well, boy, I had 14 tasks today," and sometimes you turn around and you wonder. Like, I'll leave the house of a morning about 6:45. There are times that I'll talk all the way up here with different people. And you've seen pull up in front of the office out here and still be on there 15 or 20 minutes. So it's a very fulfilling job. It's a very demanding job. And I'm very fortunate to be the one that's doing it.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Ralph. I really appreciate it.
Yes, no problem. I've enjoyed it. I hope it worked out right, and if it didn't, it just didn't.
It just didn't. And thank you for listening to the Ohio Laborers Union and You podcast. For more information, you can go to our show notes. Please click subscribe and like our podcast on all the areas that you can listen to podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, iTunes, and thanks for tuning in.
Views and comments on this program may not be those of the Ohio Laborers District Council or of LIUNA. This has been a Down with the Dig production.